Okay, day 283 off the grid, a little bit of solar. Just got a bit of time today to spend on some of this stuff, so I'm sort of working with this thing that I made yesterday here, and it's simply a stud. And what it is it's part of an old catch that just happened to take this, I don't know, it's about a 6mm bolt or so. 6mm bolt and captivate the head of it in there, and I just improved that with a little bit of hot melt glue to fill out the gap, and that is solid as, and I've just screwed it onto this panel. And what that'll form is the negative return for everything that is not the inverter, basically. So these 4-gauge power leads here, this one here and this one here, are only going to be supplying power to this inverter, nothing else. They come through this breaker here, and I've got a separate positive feed on this yellow wire that feeds everything else here, and this is going to be the negative for that, so everything else will just be bound to this point here. So there we go, pretty simple really. It's made a stud, but it works really well. So here's the nut, so I'll show it wired up in a wee bit. And there we have it, there's the stud connected now with the cables. Here's the negative return that goes back to the battery down here. So I've got my negative there going to the inverter, and that's the new wire, and that's a link wire between the other set of batteries, and that's the charging input there. Right, so I also did a couple of other things. A thing that I didn't expect to do, but it turned out to be quite cool actually. I decided to get this mains charger here that I built up off the floor. It used to be just sitting down here. You might have seen it in some of my other videos. It's basically just a 40 odd volt DC unregulated power supply, and I've just put a car headlamp. Where is it? There it is. You can see it there. A car headlamp in series with that, and then into the solar charge controller. That car headlamp limits the current and also gives it a sort of solar panel-esque kind of output impedance, but it is a little bit inefficient, but it doesn't matter. Like it's a mains charger, and of course I don't have the mains, but when the generator's going, but I can also use it from inverters to dribble charge between batteries if I want to, and I have done. But yeah, before this was just sitting on the floor here and connected to these batteries via clip leads, you know, battery connection clips. In fact, here are the leads here that I've removed, and these are going to be really handy now because I needed some better power leads to connect up that 12-volt battery to my WYSIWYG internet thingy that you've seen in my other videos. So that's what I'm going to use. I wasn't expecting this. Had no idea I was going to do this today, but I did it, which is cool because it was worthwhile. It's given me a bit more room in the shed. Now I've just got to get these damn batteries out of my way, and I'll be right. Anyway, so this is connected through this breaker here to the positive there, and the negative of course to the new stud. This is of course a negative switching charge controller, but it doesn't matter because this is an isolated supply, so I can get away with that totally, no problem. Well, shall we see if it works? Got a feed over from an inverter, so I'll just switch it on. Oh, first of all, turn on the battery. So the charge controller knows it's connected to it's connected to a 24-volt battery, and that battery is obviously green, so it's pretty good. So now if I fire on the mains, as it were, soon this charge controller will realise that it's got input. There we go. It's fired up the sun LED. The globe of course has come on and dropping about 10 volts, and also it is firing on and off because of course the charge controller is regulating. These little cheap ones are essentially an on-off type thing, and with that connected you can see the process well. There's almost no amps coming from my main charge controller now because this is kind of taken over. But of course we don't want that right now. We want to be charging from the sun. Well, this is still charging from the sun, but it's charging from the other solar panels on the other battery bank. So we'll turn this off. So all we've got to do is just fire that off there. And that's it basically. I'll just leave that connected like that. That's totally fine. It uses very little current, so that's it really. So that's what I've done today with solar, and hopefully I'll have time to connect up that internet lead. Well, not the internet lead, but that battery connection lead for our internet WYSIWYG thing. So there we go. There we have it, day 283 off the grid.